Aloha and thank you for inviting me to speak with you about the critical importance of the military's future in Hawaii. I am sorry that I am unable to join you, but my legislative duties here in Washington have prevented me from attending. I would like to extend a warm mahalo to ThinkTech Hawaii for organizing this event, and to Congresswomen Colleen Hanabusa, Jennifer Sabas, General Stan Osserman, Admiral Zap Zalifer, Captain Jeff James, Ralph Costa, and Bill Kearns for taking the time to share their knowledge with us and for their commitment to providing for Hawaii's military future. As we continue to rebalance to the Pacific, we mark a significant shift in our national's defense and foreign policy strategies. Hawaii is expected to continue to play a prominent role in this rebalance, and ensuring that our state has the resources it needs to accommodate this important role is a priority for the Hawaii's congressional delegation. While there are many issues that divide Congress, the need for a robust national defense is not one. Our country has consistently shown that we recognize the need for a strong national defense and are willing to allocate funds in order to do so. While many of the federal spending levels continue to be held at the sequester caps, defense spending has been allowed to exceed those levels. This year's NDAA authorizes defense spending at almost $38 billion over the sequester caps. To put that into perspective, the entire discretionary budgets for the Departments of Transportation and Housing Development was $55 billion. And while unfortunately both parties disagree on the tactics for that were used to increase defense spending to the President's budget request, it shows that most of Congress at least agree that it needs to be at that level. I personally believe that we need to lift the sequester caps on both defense and non-defense spending in order to foster a future that has growth. And it is more than just defense spending that provides for our national security efforts. As a member of the House Armed Services Committee, I was heavily involved in the drafting of the National Defense Authorization Act of 2016. This bipartisan legislation put forward by the committee emphasizes the continuing need to provide for a strong national defense. The House recently passed the NDAA, which contained many benefits for Hawaii. This year's NDAA contained $470 million for military construction spending in Hawaii. These funds will be used to provide upgrades to critical infrastructure and training assets throughout the state. In addition, the NDAA contained an amendment that required the Department of Defense to fund an infrastructure plan to make critical improvements to the Red Hill Underground Fuel Facility. This not only guarantees the environmental security of the surrounding communities, but ensures that the military will continue to utilize the Red Hill Underground Fuel Facility for the years to come. We also worked hard to include funding that will be used to design a critical upgrade to the Barking Sands Tactical Underwater Range. This funding will help the Pacific Missile Range facility to provide continued unparalleled training readiness and test evaluation support for the United States military. A number of critical military training ranges besides Barking Sands exist in the Pacific AOR. I passed an amendment that directs Congress to study the investments in infrastructure needed at major training and testing range facilities, and to present a plan moving forward to modernize these ranges throughout the nation. Finally, I included an amendment to reverse the harmful per diem cuts for federal employees and military personnel that were cut as a result of a Department of Defense policy in 2014. This policy resulted in the financial losses to our hardworking civilians and businesses dedicated to serving the military. This was one of my top priorities in the NDAA, and I thank my colleagues that joined me in supporting a measure to rectify this unjust situation. However, the impact of our defense in our community goes far beyond simply funding infrastructure projects and priorities in Hawaii. Defense spending can impact sectors far beyond the reach of what we consider traditionally. In this year's bill, for example, I was able to include several amendments that will impact education in our community, leaving us better prepared to deal with the future. We worked on this year's NDAA to include a reprioritization of schools located on military installations for construction grants. And the DoD Appropriations Act included an amendment that I introduced that doubled the DoD impact aid from $25 million to $50 million. Finally, on the floor of the House, the Takai Amendment overwhelmingly passed to require the military to provide certifications for military personnel in the maritime trades, leaving our veterans more prepared to contribute to an industry at the heart of Hawaii, the U.S. Merchant Marine. I chose to support the NDAA because of the overwhelming positive benefits for Hawaii. While I recognize and understand some of my colleagues' concern, my primary responsibility is to the people of Hawaii. I will always be a champion, first and foremost, for the people I was elected to serve. As the United States continues its shift in focus to the Pacific region, Hawaii will need to receive adequate federal support to keep playing our critical role. I am committed to working with all the other members of the congressional delegation in order to achieve the best results for our military readiness and for the people of our state. With Senator Hirono, Congresswoman Gabbard, and I sitting on the Armed Services Committees in both the House and the Senate, we're a powerful voice to advocate on behalf of Hawaii. Senator Schott serves on the Appropriations Defense Subcommittee and is well situated to send federal funds back to Hawaii. We are a united delegation and united in our desire to provide Hawaii and the United States with the resources needed to accomplish our objectives in the Pacific region. Mahalo once again to ThinkTech Hawaii and the fellow panelists for facilitating today's discussions. Aloha.